The room went silent. The smell of burning chemicals still hung in the air from the science experiment that had gone wrong, but no one dared move. Every pair of wide, frightened eyes locked on the sight unfolding in the center of the lab. A boy, taller, broader, and meaner than anyone else in the school, had his hands wrapped around his teacher's throat. Mrs. Carter, their new science teacher, didn't flinch. Even as her airway tightened, her expression remained calm, controlled, like a soldier facing fire. The students didn't know it yet, but they were about to see the other side of the woman who had walked into their classroom just months ago, the side she never wanted to reveal. When Mrs. Carter first arrived at Westfold High, she seemed like any other teacher, neat, quiet, polite. She wore plain cardigans, spoke gently, and smiled often. The students liked her enough, but she wasn't flashy like some of the younger teachers, nor strict like the older ones. But the bullies in the school, especially Kyle, the ringleader, saw her kindness as weakness. Kyle had a reputation for tormenting anyone smaller, smarter, or different. He came from a wealthy but broken home, where money covered up what love failed to provide. His father was absent, his mother distracted, and Kyle carried his pain like a weapon, inflicting it on others. He tested Mrs. Carter from the start, talking over her, throwing things during class, spreading rumors. Most teachers ignored him, fearing his family's influence in the district, but Mrs. Carter never lost her composure. She would meet his sneer with a steady gaze and return to her lesson, unaffected. That only made him push harder. The breaking point came one Thursday afternoon in the lab. Mrs. Carter had split the students into groups for a chemistry experiment. The room buzzed with excitement and nervous laughter as beakers clinked and burners hissed. Kyle, frustrated by a mistake his partner made, decided to cause chaos. He poured too much of a reactive chemical into a flask, sending smoke and sparks flying. Students screamed, backing away. Mrs. Carter rushed in, swiftly neutralizing the reaction with practiced precision. But instead of apologizing, Kyle smirked. "What's the big deal? Scared of a little fire, Grandma?" Mrs. Carter stood firm. "You put everyone in danger, Kyle. Clean this up and stay after class. We need to talk." That was the moment he snapped. Maybe it was her calm authority, maybe the laughter of classmates, maybe the weight of his own bitterness, but Kyle stormed forward. "You don't tell me what to do," he shouted, grabbing her by the throat. Gasps filled the room. A girl screamed. Someone ran for help. But Mrs. Carter didn't panic. In a flash, her hand moved, grabbing his wrist, twisting it in a precise motion that made him stumble. Her other arm swept his legs, and in seconds, the towering bully was face down on the lab floor, her knee pressed firmly into his back. The class was stunned. This wasn't the gentle teacher they knew. This was something else entirely. "Kyle," she said firmly, her voice calm but commanding, "you need to let go of this anger before it destroys you." He thrashed, but it was useless. She held him without effort, her movements sharp, disciplined, military. And then the truth clicked. That evening, word spread through the school like wildfire. Mrs. Carter wasn't just any teacher. She was a decorated Army veteran, a former combat medic who had seen more than most people could ever imagine. She had come to teaching not because she couldn't do anything else, but because she chose to. After years of serving, patching up wounded soldiers under fire, and watching young men crumble under the weight of war, she wanted to give kids something different, a chance at life before they threw it away. Kyle's attack could have ruined her, but instead, it opened a door she had long kept shut. The school held a hearing. Kyle's parents tried to silence the matter, to paint their son as the victim, but too many witnesses spoke up, and the truth could not be buried. Kyle was expelled, and the law got involved. But Mrs. Carter, she didn't stop at discipline. She visited Kyle while he awaited his hearing. He sat sullen, his arrogance stripped away. For the first time, he looked like what he truly was, a scared kid, desperate for someone to understand him. "You think hurting others will make you strong," she told him softly, "but I've seen real strength. It's not in your fists, or your threats, or your money. It's in how you rise after you've been broken." Kyle's tough facade cracked. He broke down, years of pain spilling out. No teacher had ever spoken to him like that, not with condemnation, but with truth. Months later, Westfold High was different. Mrs. Carter's past was no longer a secret, but it didn't make her unapproachable. If anything, it made students respect her more. They knew she had walked through fire and come back stronger, and they wanted to learn from her, not just about science, but about life. And Kyle, his path wasn't easy, but he changed. The system forced him into counseling, community service, and eventually a youth rehabilitation program. It wasn't overnight, but the boy who once terrorized classrooms began to find new purpose. Years later, he would credit that moment in the lab, not the punishment, but Mrs. Carter's words, for saving him from a future of destruction. The story spread online, and Mrs. Carter became an unsung hero in her town. But when asked about it, she always shook her head. "I didn't destroy his future," she'd say. "I gave him the chance to rebuild it." Sometimes strength isn't about fighting back harder, it's about breaking the cycle of pain. Mrs. Carter showed her students, and Kyle, that true power lies in self-control, compassion, and the courage to guide others toward a better path. And that's the legacy she left, not of violence, but of hope.